is Crystal Johnson, and this is my video on standardized testing. Throughout the chapter, we learned the three different types of standardized testing that we use, and the three are intelligence, aptitude, and achievement. Intelligent test is, I would say, the ability to think and reason rather than acquire knowledge, what we know all in all when it comes to making judgment, having reasoning. The aptitude test was the individual having the ability and the potential to be successful in a certain task. Achievement test is what they have gained the knowledge of overall from being taught. So, how did I connect? With this lesson, I found it very interesting because, for one, I'm a teacher. For two, I'm a parent. And for three, I have been a student. So, I was able to connect on three different levels. And the way I connected as a student was I can think back when I was in grade school and how my teachers and my parents would always pressure. I wouldn't necessarily say pressure, but always talk to me about how important it was for me to pass the test. And me being the student, I was very stressed because I knew I didn't want to be held back because of not passing the test, and then my peers and my classmates and others are picking at me because I failed and had to stay back. And as a teacher, I would say we pressure our students as well as our parents because we communicate with our parents to let them know, hey, your child is taking an important test and he or she needs to pass. If not, that child will be stayed back, be held back or whatever. And it's basically like a chain reaction. The principal is pressured from the higher authorities from the district, and then the principal comes and pressures the teachers about, okay, we need to make sure our students pass because we need these fundings. And then the teachers are pressuring the students because we know that, okay, when it all boils down, it's going to they basically try to reflect because a child hasn't passed the test. What is the teacher teaching? And then with the FSA, for example, they use that as it's taken individually. All students take it, whether they have a disability, language barrier, whatever the case may be. They still are tested on this test. So if a school does well, and when the school get overall grading, and if the grade is bad, you have the potential of basically having units cut, meaning classrooms are cut, and then that's when the classrooms are cut, teacher you loses their job at that particular school, and then maybe have to be placed somewhere else. And then the funding, we know that these tests bring in a lot of funding. So you don't do good, you don't get the funding. You do well, you get the funding. So it it's stress on the parent, the teacher, and the student. And me being as a parent, I witnessed the stress last year with my daughter when she was in third grade, having to just study, and not just study. I prayed, my mama prayed, she prayed, I fast. It was just the thought of my child being held back because of this particular test. And I feel like the test isn't necessarily accurate because we know, well, teachers know that you can test a student informally and you'll have better results than when you have to have them sit down and either write out a question or answer a multiple choice question. It just happens. People are like, you have people that are poor test takers. They get nervous, the anxiety, the stress. So, okay, I'm stressed, I'm on anxiety, I freak out. Then you may have somebody that, oh wow, when a test comes, it's a breeze. They run through it, no stress at all, and they will do well. Versus the person that stresses and has anxiety, they may have known that information, but when that test comes to them, here's this big blockage that stops them from even focusing or having the ability to think right, to answer the question right, but yet and still they're penalized because, okay, they didn't do well on this test. I wouldn't necessarily say penalized, but they're held back, or they're used to test, they'll compare their test to other students' tests, saying that, oh, they're not on this their grade level, they're here, but this student is there. And that's not necessarily the point. So what extended my thinking, what made me think about it, was the people that has test anxiety. Then you have the language barrier kids. When they're giving those tests, it's in English. So if they don't know English, they're learning English. English isn't their home native language. That's another barrier right there. That causes like failure on the test. Then you're looking at this student like, okay, I know I'm teaching this. The child is always in my classroom, but the test result says something different. And I have witnessed it because I just administered AP1 to one of my VPK students, and this is her very first time in school, and taking the test. When I first did it by myself, she did horribly. But I was like, no, I know this student knows more than this. Let me go get a Creole speaking staff to come help translate what I say. And to believe it or not, when he came and translated the test to her, she blew it out the waters. But yet and still, I kept the test, and I wrote on the test. So when I put all my information into Bright Beginnings, and then when the school coach look at the testing results, I can go back to that documentation and say, hey, the first test I gave her, I administered to her by myself. She didn't do well. The second test I administered to her, I had an interpreter. She did wonderful. So we know that it's the language barrier. And being that there's a language barrier, you're going to have several kids that's going to fail. And my challenge is, why are these kids giving these tests when we know that each child is different? They're unique in their own special way. Like, why are they being tested to say whether or not they know this and they know that? As I said earlier, some people are test takers and some people aren't. But we use these specific tests to clarify whether or not they're on grade level or not. You can talk to some people. They can talk it, but when it comes down to putting it down on paper, they don't have it. So you would necessarily say, okay, speaking with this student, she was able to give me the answer, but when I placed this inside, when I placed the test in front of her, when it came to choosing an answer, she couldn't do it. So that's my biggest challenge. Like, what are we going to replace these standardized tests? How are we going to get these kids comfortable and less stress, less being under stress, the parents not being stressed and having anxiety whether or not their child are going to pass? Like, and then you think about it, like, these tests are enabling our kids. I wouldn't say enabling. These tests are stopping our students from even going to college. And some, I know, for example, when I took the FCAT in high school and also the SAT and the ACT before I graduated, after those tests, I felt like with the FCAT, it was FCAT then, I felt like, oh Lord, I don't think I did well on that test, but I really need to graduate because my mom do not want me to get a certificate of completion. But when my test results came back, I passed. And from being under that stress, I always used to say, I don't think I'm going to college, because I know if high school like this, college is even worse. So those tests can change the thoughts of the dreams that the kids once have. Oh, I want to go to school and be a doctor. Oh, I want to go to school and be a nurse. I want to go to school and be a teacher. They get to think about, oh, I remember when I took the FSA, that test was so hard. I was under so much stress. No, I don't think about it. I'll get a job at a fast food restaurant. I'll take a trade. So, like, things need to be put into place for better tests, period. And I hope you guys enjoyed my video.